So section C is over here, and in this particular year, you guys were asked to write an imaginary story entitled The Missed Message. Now, in this particular section, the examiners are not going to expect you to construct a novel. That's the first thing you should remember. Second, the examiners will not penalize you for your plot. As in, you do not have to be really creative to come up with a very peak story. All right? So you can come up with any type of plot. The thing is, whatever you are gonna write, like whatever your plot is, it must deliver the topic, and the name, the mention of the topic must be within your text at least once. So you gotta mention the name of the topic at least once. And I say at least, when I say at least one, that means you are welcome to mention it a couple of times. But the bare minimum is once. And you should not force the name. This is where planning is going to be key and a game changer. So before you write, here's what I would suggest. Before you attempt to write a response, plan your answer through. There are a lot of pages, and you're not going to write all of these. Like, probably given the exam scenario where time is always something that seems to be running out, you will not be able to write these 5 pages complete. Like, it's impossible. You're not going to write these 5 pages. So what I suggest is use this little place over here. Why did I start there? Use this little half page or whatever, a quarter of your page over here to plan your answer. Structure your answer. What is going to be my character? What's going to be my climax? And speaking of these, I will show you how to structure an essay. For example, the first thing you're going to be starting with is with your intro. And the intro is going to be setting the scene. Okay? It's going to be setting the scene. And how do we do that? We do that with pathetic fallacy. I will try my best to make this video as short as possible. And remember, in your actual examination, you have to complete this section. Now, in the question paper, if you notice, they say that you should spend 1 hour over here. Now, if you heed to this advice, you are doomed. You're doomed, because no way in hell are you going to be able to spend 1 hour here, 1 hour in section B, and you cannot expect section A to take 1 hour to complete. That is impossible. So you need to finish this part within 30 to 40 minutes at best, not more than 40 minutes. That means 40 minutes to plan, 40 minutes to write the whole thing and revise it, because most of the time you will not have time to revise at the end. Like, it's not going to be that you finish section A, B, C, and then you'll have time to revise. It's very rare that happens. So whatever section you finish, revise the section then and there and move on to a different section so that you never have to come back to the section to check. Okay? Again, this video is not just to solve. I want you guys to know all the little nuances that's going to make a difference in the actual game, which is going to be your exam. I hope you get the joke. So that's a pathetic fallacy. What is a pathetic fallacy? Pathetic fallacy is using or describing a setting such that it evokes an emotion. So you're going to be describing a scenario. You're going to be describing something. You're going to be describing the weather in such a way that it evokes a depressing, somber atmosphere. It creates that. You're going to describe a room. You enter a room and the room is so beautiful. It evokes a very positive energy from the readers. It kind of like that's what you're doing. You're going to be using pathetic fallacy to construct, to implant those emotions in the readers. That's what a pathetic fallacy is. Now, I'm going to give a very wishy-washy structure over here for any sort of essay or story. It'll have an intro, and then you're going to build it up. You build up the momentum. And how do we do that? We include characters or events. We include characters or events to elaborate our situation, or elaborate our story. Gotta generate content. That's how we do it. When you have character, make sure you give them a little screen time. That's what you would say in a movie, right? but you got to give them some page time, as I like to say. So describe your character, build them. Again, you're not writing a novel. The limitation is 400 words. You have to keep your response within 400 words, 50 give or take. You build it up, then you're going to have a climax. And that is the pinnacle of your text. That's the peak, like in a graph, a bell-shaped graph. That's going to be your peak point on the graph. That's where, like, your story's on. That's the moment that something's going to happen. The point of inflection. Something's going to happen afterwards, and that's a hook. That's the part of your story that's going to keep your audiences hooked in. You do a good job, your audience is going to read through. If you do a bad job, they're going to shut the book, or they're going to close their paper and move on. The examiners are your audience. You got to keep them hooked up. So there you go. Then you're going to give a resolution. Okay, something happened. What happens afterwards? So we need to give some sort of resolution. So say the main character's father died. What does the main character do afterwards? Does he kill himself? Is he depressed? Does he indulge in alcohol and drugs? How does he handle? How does he juggle between this emotional turmoil? What does he do? That's the resolution. And then you do a follow-up. What happens afterwards? And a summary. Now, the title is The Missed Message. So many candidates, what they did was, and this is going to be the last time I'll be yapping before I start writing the answer, you can interpret this topic in many ways. The most common is relating it with a text message that you or somebody else sent you, and the idea is you did not read the message when you were supposed to read it, and you read it afterwards, but when you read it, it's too late. The harm was done. Something happened. Whoever sent the text, something happened to them. A piano fell on their head. They died. Something happened. The harm is irreversible. You can't do anything. The only thing you can do is regret, hate yourself, regret, and you learned a lesson in a hard way. That is the main goal over here. Now, how can we write this? There's so many ways to write this kind of essays, and there is no wrong answer. You can choose whatever plot, however you wish to write. This is your response. You have the freedom, but you must be on point. You must be valid, and your writing has to fit the title that they gave. All right. Now let's give ourselves a name. Let's say my name is John or Bob. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Now, I'm a student, and and the thing is, the idea is the missed message. It could be either to one, you intentionally did not see the message. Two, you were occupied with something, or you're doing something, and you didn't find the necessity to read the message then and there. So let's say I'm a student and I was doing something. I was occupied. Occupied. It's not how you pronounce occupied. Occupied. All right. Say I was doing some sort of like a university project or something. All right. And I get a missed message. Somebody texts me, and I get a message. And say that message was from your mom or your dad. Let's not. Fine. You could give anyone. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. It could be anybody. Really. Grandpa. It could be anybody. We can choose, right? And so they texted me, and I did not, and I kind of like rejected, or I should say ignored it, and I checked the message. After many hours, like after millennia. So I checked the message. Let's say after like 5 or like 6 or 7 hours. Do not come up with that brain rot. But there you go, 6 or 7 hours, right? But when I do get it, when I do read the message, I read it. It's late. Something happened to my grandpa. And that's the regret that's going to reside within me. The idea, one of my favorite things, genres, or you can say any text or any story that has this regret painted in it is something that I love reading. The idea of regret is very powerful. Okay? So that's what we're gonna do. Regret it's like that one bruise that's somewhere in your body. You don't even know where it is. Sometimes it itches, and you try to itch it, but it's out of reach. Regrets are irreversible. They never go. It's a constant reminder of something you didn't do or something you failed to do. And that's the reason why you're regretting. Let's write something like this. So here's how we're gonna write. So say you texted somebody. So the text message is gonna come through my phone. So somebody's gonna text me. So keep it as simple as possible. The phone buzzed. loudly, as its light illuminated the the dark room. Okay, so we're simply setting the scene. And what we're gonna do is, excuse me, we could make this a little better, I guess. We could say dark. We could say dim. We could say, what else can we say? I'm thinking about all the other things. I think you could say um, dim is fine. Dim is fine. So the dim room, okay, the dim room, and then we can say the the notification chime is a familiar thing. So a familiar digital. Now it's a vibration, so let's not call it a vibration. Let's call it something else. In this section, not these, in this section, knowing synonyms and ambitious vocabularies for particular common day words is going to play a significant role in getting more marks. So let's say pulse, digital pulse. A familiar digital pulse echoed in my ears. I'm going to be using a dash. You should know your punctuations well by now. I'd heard countless times. Now, let's make a joke over here. Since I'm a student, say when I got the text message, I thought it was some of my friends or something. You know those group chats, everybody's arguing about the stupidest topic they can come up with. It's like whether the earth is flat or not, something like that. So it's midnight and they're probably having a fight over these kind of stupid trivial matter. And so that's what I thought. That's what I thought, but it was somebody else. So that's we could say something like this. Countless times. Usually, you could say accompanying arguments in the group chat. Don't say GC, say group chat. Group chat. And I try to use an illustration. Use devices. You must use devices in this section. Chat about a group. Usually accompany arguments in the group chat about the Earth's. The Earth should be capital. So now, Earth's flatness. Flatness. Okay. At that moment, let's describe how we are. Like when you're doing a project, what can you imagine? Let me give you a scenario so you can imagine. It's midnight and you're working on a project that you do not want to be. You don't want to do the project. Your lamp light's on. You're hunched over your back like a camel, and your eyes are like all blue and you're squinting. You're dying. That's that scenario. You're dozing off. You know, you're trying your best not to fall asleep because you know if you fall asleep, you're cooked for tomorrow, and the deadline's tomorrow, right? So this is a scenario. That's what I'm trying to get at. So I could say something like, at that moment, um, hunched. The word hunched means to kind of like a camel, kind of like a shrimp or something, like you know, curling up in a way, hunched over my desk. Eyes squinting. You could say squinting or stinging. You could say stinging. You could say stinging. Yeah, from the blue light of a half finished project. So I'm referring to my laptop here. Okay. And what's a common scenario over here? Whenever we're doing projects in school or university, college, wherever, the professors and the teachers make it sound as if the project defines ourselves. The project is our value. So if you fail the project, you are worthless. If you fail the project, the whole world is going to collapse. That's how they make us feel, don't they? And so we can make a joke. So we can make a joke and we can say something like, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. Right? That's something we can say. Convinced that my productivity determined the whole world's fate, or the, you could say, the whole determined the fate of the universe, the fate universe. I'm using a hyperbole over here. So now I'm validating my point. I'm validating why I'm justifying my annoyance. I'm justifying why I felt bothered because I'm doing a project. So a bit bothered now because I don't want to be bothered over here. I brushed the phone away, right? I pushed the phone away. I pushed it aside. I brushed the phone aside. Then another notification. Notification. And another. So that's the third one, right? The first time, the second, the third. This time, annoyed, I swiped them away. That's the point, without looking. Without looking. And I'm going to give a monologue. This is where you should be giving these kind of dialogues. I'll check it later when I'm done. This is the point. Regret sometimes happens from things you did or things you didn't do. And this is one of those regrets. So later, this word, I'm gonna make it bold for a reason. Because when I finish, when I'm giving that follow-up, I want to talk about how I will, and I will be, this is one of those things, I don't know if you've read stories or novels. You will see that the writer narrates a story and at the end he gives a little invoice where he's talking to us. He'll say something like, "Isn't it funny how the world is so weird? Like, things we do, things we don't do." And he's talking to himself, but it's reflecting his past, the story we just read, and it's a direct it's directed to us, okay? And so I want to talk about how we procrastinate and how we reassure ourselves that later, that thing, there's a later. But sometimes time doesn't promise us. Sometimes fate has a different plan, and that later never comes. I thought I could text that individual, whoever sent that missed message. There was a later. I could have texted them back at a later time. That later never came. Had I known this, I wouldn't have swiped the text message away. So I'm kind of building the momentum such that at the end, the weight of regret is significant. That's what I'm trying to do. So I told myself, and I can give a little foreshadow here. This was the biggest mistake, or mistake. I'm going to use an alliteration. Biggest blunder. You could do that as well. Blunder. I'm using alliteration. Okay, now let's say that the message was there for a very long time. The message sat there for hours. It sat there for 6 hours. Trying to use a parallel sentence. The message sat there for hours. We could say 4 hours. Or you could say, yeah. You just say, you know what? The message sat there for 6 hours. When I finally when I want to say something here. When I finally completed the treacherous, we're using a negative adjective to describe that project feeling. Why was I giving so importance to the project? Because I thought it would define my existence. So I felt feeling like I had conquered. What did I conquer? The world. The whole world. You could do that sometimes. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I reached for my phone. Dash. It felt heavier than usual. Now, I'm going to explain what I'm doing over here. We use dash when you have two sentences that work together. We use a hyphen when you have two words that work together. Okay, another thing. You can use this phrase, it felt heavier. It's a very common phrase. Sometimes it's thrown around a little bit too much. It suits when you try to create attention. For instance, you say you've been handed an envelope, and you know the results reside in it, and you know you did not read, you didn't study, and you were cooked. You are cooked. You failed, and so despite the envelope having just a thin sheet of paper, it feels heavier. Why? It's creating that sense. It's creating that tense moment that it has a piece of paper, yes, but I feel the tension, and that's what's causing it to feel heavier. So this could be, you could say this kind of stuff. So normally my phone, in reality, my phone hasn't, its weight hasn't suddenly increased. I didn't get fat or anything. It's just that when I saw the message, whoever texted me, I felt a painful pang rose up my chest. Something happened. We're going to describe it. And one of the ways to describe it is saying this: it felt heavier than usual. That's a very common way to say it. Okay, why? Why did it feel heavier? To my surprise, the group chat was dead calm. You could say dead calm. You could say dead calm, or you could say eerily silent, or quiet. Both are correct. But or hushed. Hushed, it could be that as well. Your wish. The last message, let's say, had been sent 3 days ago. Now, the question is, who had sent me the text message then? Who had sent me the text message? And this is a rhetorical question. So if you see, I'm using a device. I'm using multiple devices over here. I used a foreshadow. I'm using alliteration. I'm using rhetorical question. I'm doing stuff over here. Okay. Then let's say I scrolled through the chat, and discovered it was my, what were our options? Mom, dad, let's say grandpa or grandma. Let's say grandma. It was my grandma. The time was, since we were doing at night, let's make up a time. 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. or 2:15. It could be more precise. So the time was precisely. That's not how you pronounce precisely. There you go. Precisely, say 2 a.m. It's fine. And AM should be capital. 2 a.m. The message was, the text was one long text message. So you can say the text, or the text was one long, or the message, or I should say, she sent. Oh God, what the heck is going on? She sent one long text message. Typical. Grandmas not knowing much about social media and how to text. That's typical, right? I'm trying to make it relatable. Okay. That's that message. It read, say, what would they say? Hey, Johnny. Since my name is John, that's how you pronounce Johnny. Johnny, that's how you pronounce it. Hey, Johnny. How? Oh my God. Extremely sorry. How have you been? Okay. It's been a while since I last saw you. So such a wholesome thing. God. And then she's gonna say, call me when you can, or when you're free. Call me when you are free. Free. Okay? Now, what would be the honest reaction if you see something? Like for me personally, if my mom texts me and I reply, or I even notice her text 30 minutes later, I feel so bad. I feel like a very bad child, because they deserve instant reply. When your mom, your dad, whenever your grandpa, your grandma, whenever they're texting, they deserve that attention. They deserve your undivided attention. And I neglected her text message, thinking it was my stupid friend sending me stupid memes. And now it's been so long and I see this text, and probably she was waiting on the other side, waiting desperately for me to call her. It's gonna send shivers down my spine. So that's gonna be my honest reaction. The text message sent shivers, and I'm using a sibilance over here. Intentional, everything's intentional. Shivers down my spine. Feeling utterly disappointed, or feeling utterly bad, or feeling bad about my ignorance. I immediately called her, right? Slammed the call button. And of course, we're not gonna let that call ring. We will never. This is the thing. When you are the author, you have the power to change fate in the universe, whatever universe your story is taking place in. So we're not gonna make that call reach to her. So we're gonna say it rang, or you could say it rang the first time. Yeah, it rang the first time. Right? It rang the first time, but went unanswered. Unanswered. I rang again. I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna be persistent. I want it to ring a second time. Still no response. Okay. The third time. Give me a moment. Sorry. Okay. The third time, the line didn't ring, right? The line didn't ring. And what is the message? The voice message that the phone says? The person you're trying to call is unreachable. And I am gonna make this in bold to put emphasis. And let's personify the phone, saying the phone spoke back at me. And what is going to be my honest reaction? Well, when you're trying to call somebody and they don't pick up the phone, you feel irritated. Well, it doesn't mean that you hate them. You just feel irritated. And the first thing you want to do is throw your phone at the wall. Now, probably you're not going to do that because who's going to buy your new phone? But that's what I want to do right now. So I'm going to say, for a moment, I felt like crushing. What happened there? Crushing the phone into pieces. All right? Within, let's say, the next hour, you should put a comma there. Within the next hour, the phone rang. The phone did ring, or just say rang. And say, it's been a while, so here's where you have to be a little consistent with your story. We said 2 a.m. and we said 6 hours. So make a little estimation, guesstimate. So if you, let's say we're in the morning and we're making our breakfast, and that's when we receive the call. So if that happened 2 a.m. and this is where we're doing maths right now. If she texted me at 2 a.m. and I saw the message 6 hours later, that's 8 a.m. And if the phone rang 1 hour later, that's 9 a.m. So I'm making breakfast. So it's valid. I can say I was making breakfast. I was in the kitchen. Now the question might be, do we need to be so precise? Does our events have to be chronological? Definitely. You're writing a text. You have to show creativity. You have to show that you have control over your text, and whatever you're saying, it links back to every passage. There is no contradiction between your ideas. Will the examiners penalize for this? Probably not. But if it hampers the flow, if it disrupts the accuracy of the text, they are allowed to deduct marks. Now, my point is, why take the risk? Why take the gamble? Just be good at what you do. That ensures your text is going to be good, and there's no risks of losing marks. So So be precise. This is why this little mini calculation was needed. So it's morning. So I was in the kitchen, although I didn't even mention what time it is right now, so it feels redundant. But anyways, when I heard the familiar ring. Familiar. Oh my God. What am I doing wrong? Oh, it's going to be A. Familiar ring. And this is where I think my grandma called me. A wave of happiness washed over me. And obhar me. Okay, very good, very good. And and what's going to be my honest reaction? I'll jump out of the, I'll jump in happiness, and I'll be dashing through the hallway, running towards the room to talk to Granny. So I dashed through the hallway to my room and filled with hope. It had been a while. Now, since I'm putting emphasis on this had, I am going to make it idyllic. There you go. So when you want to put an emphasis on a particular word, you can use idyllic text. And that's going to that is going to tell us that you are putting emphasis on the particular word. So for instance, when you're having a conversation and you say, "Are you stupid?" Or say, "You did steal, didn't you? You did." So that did, we're putting emphasis on that. Now, how are you going to do that in a text? Well, you could do two things. You could make that did capital, all capital. You can make that did bold, or you can make that did italic. All three are valid, but don't do all of them together. So don't do this. This is what I don't want you guys to do. You make it capital, then you make it bold, then you make it italic. This is not what you want to do. Pick anyone. So for instance, over here, we're using italic text to put emphasis on the had. Over here, we're using the bold to also put emphasis on the voice mail or voice message that the phone is reading out loud to me, if that makes any sense. So it had been a while since I last had a chat with Grandma. Okay? There you go. Granny or Grandma. Don't say Granny, it sounds weird. Now, it wasn't Granny, so to my astonishment, who was it? It was it could be my mom, it could be my dad. Let's say it's my mom. It was my mom who had called me. Now, of course, my face is gonna turn pale, so we can say that. Now, don't say. Now, what can we say? What kind of words can you say? You can use the word disdain. It means like disappointment, scornful and disrespect, unworthy. You get the idea. Scorn, yeah, disdain. You're not happy. You're like, oh man, why is she calling? The disdain on my face was clear, or you could say palpable, clear. There's another way to say it. So learn those words. So we can say the disdain. We can say on my face was palpable. Oh my god. There you go. Palpable. Her voice. My mom is gonna be the bearer of bad news. She's gonna be telling me what happened to grandma, and of course, something bad happened to her. That's the point. Why? That's the point where we're writing this whole essay in the first place. Her voice was tinged with what we can say sorrow. Okay, her voice was tinged with sorrow. It was thin and faint as she conveyed the somber news to me with a wavering tone. You see what I'm doing over here? In this particular section, I'm putting so much emphasis on not just the news, it's how she's delivering the news that's creating that suspense. Her voice was tinged with sorrow. It was thin and faint as she conveyed what? I'm inventing words. Conveyed the somber news. Somber means depressing, sad. with a wavering tone. Wavering means something that's fading away slowly. It's disappearing. Sort of voice was cracking and it was disappearing. The amplitude was going down. So wavering with a wavering tone. And the news was bad. So I'm going to say the news overwhelmed me. Overwhelmed me completely. Completely. I stood frozen. My hands shaking. My hands, or say quivering. Quiver. Oh my God. English is not English in quivering. My grandma had suffered. Now, how do we decide? Now, we're going to kill our grandma. I'm really sorry, grandma, but we're going to kill our grandma. Excuse me. And and how we decide to take her life is completely dependent on us. Let's say the most common way to end it is having a stroke or like a heart attack. So we can say she oh my God, she suffered a stroke. It's like that seashell tongue twister. So my grandma had suffered a stroke, right? Shortly, and I'm trying to make them S so that we use a sibilance over here. Shortly after sending that text message. So the text message that she sent at 2 a.m., right after sending it, perhaps a minute, or not minute, that's too soon. Maybe 30 minutes or an hour later, she had a stroke and she passed away. Sadly. Rest in peace, grandma. So shortly after after sending that text. So she had passed away before I had even finished closing my laptop. So it took me 6 hours to almost finish it, and I haven't slept, so I'm still like distraught and probably like drunk on caffeine. So even before I finished my project, when you finish the project, what do? You slam your laptop shut. Even before I did that, she was long gone. Now guilt is going to be the guilt is brewing inside of me, right? So now this is the climax. This is the pinnacle point of our story, our narrative writing. So now let's slowly build a follow up. So for weeks, now this is where I'm going to implement our title, which was That Missed Message, and I am going to underline this. If you want, you can underline this in your own response, or you don't need to underline it. Underlining it will show the examiner that you're putting emphasis on the title as well. You're linking back. You're doing a cyclic structure, however the hell you want to pronounce it. That's completely valid. Using underline, you can use it. Fine, it's completely fine. It's another punctuation anyway, like those little things you use. You can use it. No worries. Lingered in my pocket. In my pocket. Let's use a simile, like a ghost. So every time, it's one of those things when somebody leaves a text message and they're gone, but their message is always going to be there. It's a constant reminder of your failure. You didn't talk to them. You shunned them away. You pushed them aside. You ignored. It's your fault they passed away. Although it's not your fault, but you're gonna feel like that. You're gonna feel that way. That's the regret. That's what's gonna eat you up like inside, internally and outside as well. That's what we're trying to get to. So every time I opened the messaging app, what happened? Her text would serve as a constant reminder. I reread, this is what we do all the time, those texts again and again and again until they blurred altogether. Blurred. Now this could have a lot of meaning. It could mean those, when you read something all the time, you read that a couple of times, or you stare at something like for a long time, it gets blurry. Or The reason why it's getting blurry is because you are tearing up every time you see her text and you read it. You can't help it. Those tears kind of like streak out of your eyes. You can't help it. Emotion. It has a lot of connotation over here. So this is a good thing over here. So we can say that. What was the bad thing? I traded. The opportunity cost. I don't know if you guys have done economics in O levels or A levels. It's like that. When you decide, when you choose something, what is the immediate better option that you just forego? So over here, I could have prioritized talking to grandma, but over here, I chose my project over her, and so I chose something bad. I made a bad decision in prioritizing my project where I could have prioritized my grandma, right? So it's kind of like that over here. So I traded here. Let's get a little businessy over here. So I traded, or I should say, I had traded, past. I had traded a final conversation with my grandma for a 6 hours of, let's code it, we're poking it, efficiency, right, on a project. I wanted to be efficient as I was working, because if I talked to my grandma, if I spoke to my friends, or if I peeked over my phone, that could have disrupted that efficiency, that productivity. That's what I didn't want to do. So I traded my grandma. Had I known that I was trading my grandma, I would have not done that, right? Let's say, let's make a joke over here. So it's like one of those things. When you graduate from school, you can't even remember the quadratic equation, although back then it was so important. It was like 50% of your grade, right? So on a project, and this is after the thing, after it happened, whose name I can't even remember. I could say that. Whose name I could no longer remember, or you could say recall, right? I had prioritized. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yep. Prioritize an urgent matter over something important. Okay? Now, here's the thing. What was my urgent matter? The silent project. What was the important matter? The loud text. So sometimes loud things are important. The silent things are trivial. That's what I'm trying to link. So I could say, I failed to recognize that often the urgent matter, the urgent matter is a loud, or no, I should say, no, the urgent was actually my grandma. The important was the project, right? So exactly. So again, yeah, there you go. It makes sense, right? Doesn't it? So again poking at the word important. So here I should flip it actually. The urgent matter was the loud thing, the text message, and the important thing was the quiet thing. Urgent matter is a loud distraction, while the important, and I'm going to poke it again, important is a hushed delusion, something like that. I think I could do that. I could do a better job. And this is one of those moments where you give a little summary of your whole story, what you had learned. And here's the thing, and it's so funny in a way. You see, the idea of having a phone is such that we are connected with people. And yeah, we were connected to a group chat or other people, but you see, we are so, and this is going to be a contrast or a juxtaposition. You could say both, I guess, in a way. We are so connected, yet so far away from others. We are so connected, yet so disconnected. The phone was there. She was texting me. I was so close, yet so far. It's one of those things, isn't it? So in our age of communication, or of, not communication, I want to use an alliteration, connectivity. So what can we use? What's an adjective we can use? Constant, yeah, there we go. Constant. I smart, I has brain. Constant. In our world, or in our age of constant connectivity, VT, right? We find ourselves so disconnected, don't we? We tell ourselves that there will be always a later. This is why I bold it. And if you want, you can italic as well. No, not really, because I did mention the word later and I made it bold. And this time when I quote it, I'm linking back to that foreshadow that I gave over there. There will always be a later, but time does not promise us. But time doesn't always, make a mistake, wait, make promises. And this is a personification. Time is not a human being. How can they make a promise? Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're using a personification. Promises, right? That missed message, and if again, you can underline it, or I'm gonna underline it. You guys, if you don't want to underline it, fine. It's fine. I hate this thing. Probably you guys do as well. It occupies like 70% of the whole thing. There you go. Way better. That missed message taught me something. It taught me a harsh reality. Harsh reality. What was that? Oh, you can use a good thing. Here, and I'll say I'll say it in my own words, and then we're gonna try to make the last line the cherry on the cake. I was pursuing my own academic success, and it's fine. Productivity is gonna be hollow. It's gonna be empty. It's gonna be an empty achievement if it comes at a cost of losing the presence of someone. That someone being someone you care about. So we could say something as such. I want to try to write this a little poetically. Productivity is a hollow achievement. Empty is a synonym for empty achievement. Can't even pronounce achievement. What the heck am I doing? Achievement. Okay. If it comes, and I'm going to make this a little italic because I want to put emphasis. If it comes, put emphasis on the if it comes at the expense of presence, where it needs to be there the most. This would be an example of an essay within 400 words. This is probably 400 words, a little bit here or there. Notice how we tried to use setting, or I should say, pathetic fallacy. Notice how we used devices, we used dialogues, we used a monologue, we gave a foreshadow. We've been using stuff, punctuations, and all that kind of stuff, bold, and all these kind of little nuances. I haven't used it, an exclamation. I think I did. Yeah, there you go. Should add more, but if it doesn't go with your plot, then don't do it. I tried to use synonyms and some ambitious vocabulary that fit the narrative. The message, the content fits very well with the title. And do remember that in section C, you have marks on assessment objective 4 and assessment objective 5, respectively. So this would be a very rushed, I guess. I could have done a better job, but there you go. Hopefully you get the idea. This is how you're going to be writing your own essays, question 10, in your own answer, in your own exam. My last advice would probably be whatever you write, make sure you can generate content, make sure you're not repeating yourself, make sure using all punctuations, synonyms, ambitious vocabularies, devices, and idioms if there are any, if you want to implement any. Always link back to your title, always use or mention the title by name in your response at least once. Don't be those stupid students. Don't be those annoying little rats who mentions the title at the very last. And most of the you can do that, but 90% of the time that's a very bad thing. The execution of introducing the title at the very last is done in a very poor way, and it will cost you the marks. The examiners know that you did a very poor job. You probably forgot about the title, and then right at the end you're like, ooh, I gotta mention the title. If you do that, most of the time it's going to be really bad. It's going to turn out to be a mess, and you will lose marks. So in order to not lose marks, and don't in order not to make this mistake, remember the suggestion, remember the advice. This is going to be key. Plan your answers. Scheme. Make a little this kind of make a little weird arc. This is like we're having different arc. We have the preoccupied arc, then we have the missed message moment, then we have our grandpa calling us, our mom and dad calling us and informing it, rereading it, regret, the ending, the follow up. We're doing these things consistently and in order. Make sure you make a little plan. It's gonna make your life way easier. Trust me. Hopefully that makes sense and you found this video to be helpful. Till then, bye bye.